Hello, welcome to episode 2 of Claim Your Power. I'm going to try not to shake the camera. I thought that song was so fitting for today. The lyrics, it gets better than this. Today, I'm going to tell you how I healed my hyperactivity from my ADHD because it gets better than what you're experiencing right now. And I do have some notes I'm going to follow, so I may be looking at my other screen. So I'm here though. I'm here for you. I also just want to say that as I look around, I found little spiders just all over my place. I'm in a new location than I was last summer with my tiny home. So by a lot of trees, lots of spiders, and I have been knocking off the spider webs that are like all over the outside of my home. So I'm sure I'm gonna find more spiders inside. I should probably just knock off the spider webs, but I mean, they spin beautiful webs. I don't always want to knock it down. Anyways, okay, let's dive in. If you are new here, welcome. If you're watching the replay, also welcome. So the benefit of being on live is that you can ask your questions at the end. So you can essentially get like mini hot seat coaching. So even if your question doesn't relate to the episode, you can still bring it forward and I will answer it for you, just again, pending time, of course, how many people we have. And if you have questions throughout, if you're watching it live, please feel free to ask, just put in the chat. And then if I feel like it's fitting to answer, then I'll do it in the moment. Otherwise, we'll do it at the end. Sound good? I also was just drinking soda water, so I apologize if I burp. And I have chickens that you may hear in the background as well, along with the birds. So all the great things. Okay, cool. Again, if you're watching the replay and you want to be on live, really easy to join live. You just need to be part of my email community. It's completely free. I'll drop a link with the replay here. You'll join it. You also get my free dopamine detox training when you join my email community. And then you get access to being on live, which is every Thursday at 5:45 Pacific time. Let's get started. I'm going to switch over to my notes because I'm tapping the camera because I don't want to get too off track. And I really have some big things I want to cover today on how I healed my hyperactivity and my ADHD. And I'm going to say healed in quotes only because I feel that's such a absolute term. And I don't feel ADHD is an absolute thing. So I'm just going to say that I don't have hyperactivity. It's not something I struggle with anymore. And that's why, we could say I've healed it. But heal means there's something wrong. And I also believe there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. And there was and is nothing wrong with myself. So the other thing I just want to mention, because I'm actually just doing up a post about this that I'm going to put on my Instagram really shortly, is if you're like, Gaia, I don't relate to you at all. I didn't even introduce myself. I'm Gaia. You probably know that if you're part of my email community, but they're like, I don't relate to you. Like, I don't get it how like you've healed your ADHD. You don't struggle with it anymore. It's not a part of your life. And that may trigger you. It may upset you. You may just feel like, well, good for you, but it's not for me. That will never be possible for me. And I just want to let you know, if you feel any of those things or think of any of those things, that's so absolutely freaking perfect. You're human. Those thoughts will come up. I know they did for me when I looked at other people that I admire or hope to be like, but your ego is telling you like, you'll never be like that. Right. But if you're here, if you're watching this live or the replay, you are meant to be here because already there's something in me that's intriguing you, and that means there's some part of my life that you do resonate or relate to. And that's a beautiful thing because that means it's so available for you because there's a small, even like a tiny part of you that believes you can have it. Even if you're like, that will never be my life. This is even triggering, especially if it's triggering. That really, really strong sign that this is what you want and it is available to you. So just going to put that out there. But the opposite, just the polarity of that, I'm not supposed to be relatable to you. That's the whole point. because I'm maybe one, maybe multiple steps ahead of you and in healing my ADHD and my own personal journey. And I do this, like I really trudge forward. I self-experiment. I don't settle. I question everything. I do things my own way to see if there's a better way. See if there's a solution, a better solution. And I do all this so I can help you get there too. It's like literally, I've always imagined myself just trudging through the forest, like breaking path, throwing tree branches to the side, and like, is this the way? No, that was a terrible idea. Okay, I'm gonna backtrack. Let's go that way. Trudging through the forest. Is this the way? I think so. That's literally me, just a little navigator. Until I find out, like, whoa, there's the buried treasure. I found it. Okay, I tried all these different paths. Some were a little windy, some didn't lead anywhere. Let me find the shortest path here. Let me find the shortcut. And then I show you that so you don't have to go through what I did. So I'm not supposed to be relatable because you're not there yet. You're not at the buried treasure. And that's perfect. But I'm going to show you how to get there. And if you relate to any part of my journey that I share with you, especially if you're triggered, that means like there's definitely something there you connect with. That's all you need. And I'm going to show you the rest of the parts to get to where I am, because it's possible for you. Because me not being relatable is also showing what is possible. Because we're told, and it's reiterated and compounded in social media, especially Instagram. And, you know, we see on web pages through people, it's like, okay, ADHD, it's like this is how you'll live with it, how you'll manage it. Like we get all the same info, which is great. Like there's definitely truth to some of it, maybe all of it, depending how you look at it. But what if we question some of it? Like maybe there's another way, right? We don't know what we don't know. And that's what I do. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to try things a different way because they feel right to me. And I'm just going to experiment. Let's see what happens. So my life, you're like, that's not possible. Only you feel that way or see it that way if you do is because you've only been shown another way. But we don't know what we don't know. And that's why I'm here. This is why I'm doing all of these things and trudging through the forest. Because, you know, I may not be relatable where I am, but I'm showing you what is possible, that there are other options out there for leading the most magical, blissful, fulfilling, like easeful life. There's other ways. And I will continue to find more and more ways. And that rolls right into today's topic of how I healed my hyperactivity of my ADHD. And when I broke it down with the shortcut, I was like, whoa, this is actually like really quite basic, just a few steps, if you will, and even bundle them down. But as I wrote them down to make sure I didn't skip a step, but the first thing was I found out the root. What was the root that was exacerbating the symptom? Because I believe that your ADHD is inherent. You're born with your brain a little bit different, totally fine, just different than another brain, all is well. But you may not even recognize ADHD till way later in life. And I think this is a big thing why, especially women, are diagnosed later, maybe after, you know, kids, maybe after menopause, a big career change, because something exacerbates, or multiple things can exacerbate symptoms. You're like, oh, I totally got by my life fine. But then boom, 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 all these things happen. And now I'm really struggling. That's what I believe. So the first step is finding the root thing. Maybe there's a root experience, a root traumatic event or stressful event, and often that culminates in multiple ones that exacerbating the symptom, or multiple things that exacerbate your ADHD symptoms. And then we heal the root. And again, heal, like there's nothing wrong, so I don't like to use that word per se, but it does make sense. It's context is going to the root of like, cool, let's change that. Let's heal the root, right? Because if we go to the root of any problem, heal at the root, okay, now we're not throwing band-aids at the symptoms, right? Heal it at the root, long-term shifts, long-term changes. So that's what I do. I've done this on myself. And then it's like, whoa, the symptom is so much less potent in my daily life. And then the third step is maybe add in some strategies or systems to help that, right? Those can help, they don't solve. But the third step is, I had this analogy, it doesn't really make sense. So maybe I'll save it for later. When I thought back to it, I was like, that just may be a weird analogy. But the third step is like this regular reinforcement of like, think of it, you're creating like a new neural pathway in your brain. Think of it as like breaking a bad habit. Your symptom, think of it as a bad habit. You're like, okay, to break this bad habit, I don't want anymore. I may need to create a new habit and reinforce that I don't want this habit anymore, right? So in my daily life, I'm reinforcing like, oh, okay, I've addressed that at the root. That's not me anymore. Let's reinforce that again and again. I do that on a regular basis. And the fourth step is in my overall life, I'm showing up as this new version of myself. And I'll go more into that as well, because the power of suggestion is everything. Okay, I need some more water because my I'm like talking lots already. Okay. First step, getting to the root. So hyperactivity. And maybe look at my notes. So you'll see my eyes going around. This is one of my favorite memories to share. And I say favorite because it's just so potent in my mind. It's actually when I started to go back to this memory, I've written a few posts, I've done some Instagram stuff on it. It was really painful. Like I cried a lot to do this because it was very potent in my childhood. I've talked a lot about it this, so it's a little bit easier now. And I don't know if this is the root thing, but it's the one that's the most vivid. So I use that as my root. But I remember Saturday mornings, like every Saturday, I'd be at home on my couch, like 10 a.m. maybe, watching. Oh, I didn't watch a lot of cartoons sometimes, but it was like, Saved by the Bell, all those shows, and so great. And in that time, I'd be waiting for my dad to come home from grocery shopping with all his bags, and I would help him, my sister too, carry the grocery bags from the front door into the kitchen, and then also sometimes help him put them away. Totally fine. But the whole time I'm watching these shows, which are like great shows, I'm so uneasy, like I'm so restless. Because in the back of my mind, I know that my dad's going to come home at any moment. And what if I don't get to the door fast enough to what he wanted? What if I don't hear him at the door? What if I don't move the groceries fast enough? What if I don't put the groceries away right? There are so many things that could set him off, that I thought I did it wrong or screwed up. So the whole time I'm on edge, like, okay, well, when's he coming home? Will I do this right? And there's this constant restlessness that was within me. And this was a pattern throughout my childhood of like, how will he respond? How will he react? Will it be in anger? Will it be in love? Did I do something wrong? And I'd be so on edge of like, making sure I said the right words. And even when I did, it's like, sometimes it was still not right. Still wasn't enough. I couldn't predict. Very unpredictable. And I also want to say, I freaking love my dad so much. Such an amazing being. He was doing the best he could, given his circumstances, his upbringing, and everything. He was doing the best he could. And I love him to bits. But what this showed, little cute me, little kid doesn't know much about the world, is really learning how the world works and how our parents work, is that home and being at home with my dad is unsafe. It's unpredictable. I don't know what reaction I'll get. Even if I, do XYZ, thinking I'll get XYZ response from him, it could be completely different. Right? So unpredictable. And if things are unpredictable for a little kid, there's no certainty. They're like, oh my God, did I do this right? Did I do this right? They're on edge. It's uneasy. They're restless. And these are big things. The fact that like, okay, we can lump it under, I didn't feel safe at home. I didn't know what the response I would get. And if you're getting an angry response from someone who's supposed to like go shower you with unconditional love, you don't feel loved in those moments, basically, right? As a little kid, if they're like, oh, they're mad, I thought I was good, I thought I did good things, now they're angry, they don't love me. The love is now conditional. So as a kid, I didn't feel safe, unpredictable home life, and I didn't feel loved in certain situations. That all exacerbated this hyperactivity, which was, probably always, within me, but now I'm constantly restless. And I carried that in through my entire life. I was always, fidgety and bouncing my chair, always, up to the kitchen, down, back to my couch, over here, over here, over here, over here. So what I did, I went back to the root. I was like, I'm going to start healing this. I'm going to start changing how I felt in those moments when I was a kid. And this is the work I do with clients, and it can look a lot of different ways, but how I did it, how I work with clients for a lot of time is, you can call it like inner child healing. Let's go back to those memories, or just go back to when you were younger, whatever age that may be. And it's reparenting yourself. It's like, okay, let's give them the love that they didn't have. Let's change the situation, change the memory. We're not changing the memory per se, but changing how you felt in the memory. Instead of feeling uneasy and not safe and in love, let's change it so you're like, oh, I have perspective. My dad wasn't angry at me. He was angry with something else. It wasn't directed to me. I'm so loved. And now I feel safe in that moment, in that memory. And I didn't mention this, so I'm going to take a little back step, but doing that is so potent because those memories and how you felt and how I felt in those memories are stored in your body, or in my body, as somatic memory. Just like a memory is stored in your brain, right? You're like, I remember that. But how you felt, so all the good and bad, is stored in your body as somatic memory, right? So going back to those memories, replaying it, changing a little bit, so your body feels differently, so it feels at ease. There's a release, there's, feeling of love. It's like breaking that bad habit. It's like, oh, we can let go of how I did feel. I've been, in fear and not love, now feeling, oh, I'm so loved. I feel at ease. And like any memory, if we can change it, create a new neural pathway in our brain, right? And this is why I go into step 3 and 4. We're just reinforcing it on a regular basis. Because think, if you are hyperactive, those times you're like restless and like fidgety and doing all these things. And if you've ever experienced maybe in meditation or just some breathing or just a moment in time where you're like, I felt calm and at peace in that moment, you're essentially rewiring your brain, your body, to continually be able to come back to that. And that's a blissful, amazing stage. So I had some analogy. Am I going to go with analogy? Will it make sense? I don't know. Let's move on. The analogy is a tree, and it's about cutting down trees, but it sounds really evil because I'm like killing trees, and I don't want to do that either. But so that's step 1, healing at the root. And then the second step here. So second step. Okay, so step 1 is finding the root. Step 2 is healing the root. There we go. Third step is doing this on a regular basis. So why don't I maybe back step a little bit? Does that make sense? You can put in the chat as well if that's resonating, if that's landing for you. Okay, so doing that work, healing it at the root. Here's where I wanted to go. Is in a regular daily life. So if you are restless, you can maybe relate to this, but if not, you can think of a different ADHD symptom if things are, kind of turning your own brain. Let's say I'm writing a post for Instagram. I'm feeling super restless. I'm like, I'm going to go here, and like bouncing all over the place. It's not necessarily because I feel threatened, there's uncertainty, I feel in love. Not necessarily, right? Like my current reality, my dad's not there. I'm not watching TV. I don't have to go carrying groceries. Like that situation is completely different. I still feel restless. So you may be like, well, why? The situation's different. Why am I still feeling restless? It can be a few things. It could be that the situation that, I'm in, it mimics that. Like maybe I'm thinking back to when I worked in a corporate environment. It's like maybe that situation mimics me, doing something for me, something pleasurable, working on my little assignment in my cubicle, and a fear that like, what if my boss calls me and I don't hear him or her? Right? So maybe that would create that restlessness. Like there could be similar situations, the same dynamics, same patterns that do exist in my reality, current reality, that would trigger the restlessness. But sometimes not. And this is where it goes back to somatic memory. Sometimes you're sitting around and a memory just randomly pops up into your brain and you're like, nah, that's cool. That's random. Same thing. You can just pop into your body of like, oh, I'm feeling super restless right now. Nothing's wrong. But this memory, this feeling that I remember, that my body remembers long ago, is coming up for me. And this is where I go into step 3 of like how I go back and heal this on a regular basis, because that still comes up. There's times I'm like, oh my God, feeling so restless. Like I get symptom, I'm feeling so restless. So what I do, I have lots of different tools, but my favorite one is I just like hand on skin, like skin on skin, to be like, okay, let's come back to my body. Right? This is a memory stored in my body. Let's come back to the body. It's not in my head. Okay, what's in my body? You should close my eyes, take some breaths. And when I do the deeper work, I connect with my younger me, my cute little me, my inner child. And I do that in the moment. I'm like, okay, what do you need right now, girl? What do you need? What's happening? What's coming up? And I just sit with the restlessness and be like, and literally I can just visualize little her, little me, and like, what's going on? Like, what do you need? Or if I were her right now, what would I need if I were a little kid? And often it's like, oh, she just wants to go jump on a trampoline right now. Or she just wants to be told that she is so freaking loved. And bringing her to mind can help me see like, what does like this little kid, right? What if you had a parent, a little 5-year-old, what do they need in the moment? Oh, they need play, they need love, they need reassurance. And I give that to myself in the way of like talking to my younger self. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm loved. I can go play. All is well. Cool. And now cool as a cucumber and get back to work. That's literally how I do it on a regular basis. Because the memory is stored from long ago. So if I just keep going back to that and change how I felt in that moment, I can change it to feelings of calm, love, assurance. And boom, like hyperactivity gone. And the 4th step is showing up as this new version of myself on a regular basis. So power of suggestion. I love this. How do I want to say this? Like if you went to the doctor, get diagnosis, and they're like, yeah, you're definitely have the hyperactivity. And you go home, you're like, no, I don't. Totally don't. But because the doctor said, you're like, oh, maybe I do. Right? Because they told you the power of suggestion, you're like, okay, well, maybe I do. Same thing if you're like, you have certain symptoms and you Google your symptoms, you're like, oh my God, I thought I just had a sore throat, but I could have like this strange disease, right? Power of suggestion. Our beliefs and what we tell ourselves, everything. So if you always told yourself, I'm hyperactive, this can't be healed, it can't be changed, it won't. Because that's the belief you're holding. Like, that's my truth. That's how I'm going to live my life. And you wouldn't be open to other possibilities. But I tell myself, I'm like, oh, I can heal this. I can let that go. It's not who I am. It's totally like I don't say reversible, but like I can let my ADHD go. Yeah, I'm going to show up like that. So when I do feel restless, I'm not adding a problem to it. I'm not like, oh my God, I'm restless. Is what it is. I'm going to try and do work. No, it's like, oh, I'm feeling a little restless. That's fine. Let's just talk to my inner child. All is well. This means nothing, right? I'm not adding a meaning to it. I'm not attaching a problem to it. And I'm showing up as if I were someone who didn't have that. So I'm like, oh, well, I don't have hyperactivity, so this is totally fine. Right? Show up as this new version of yourself. And this is exactly what I do with my one-to-one clients and what we do in the program Body, which launches on Monday, because to do that on your own, I mean, that's fucking hard. I've used programs myself to do this, but when I was navigating a lot of this on my own, it took a long time versus fast tracking you through that. Because I can point out your roots so quickly. I can point out your patterns like even faster. And I can guide you exactly how to talk to you, to little you, to inner child. So you can start to break these patterns. And I put this in a post the other day of like, I don't have the time to invest in coaching or a program because, there's the homework and all those things. It's not, you don't really get homework. It's really just showing up now in your daily life as this newer version of yourself. You're like, cool, I just hit at one of my roots, my ADHD symptoms, but maybe it's hyperactivity. You're like, cool, I'm now going to show up on a daily basis of like, I don't have hyperactivity. And when it comes up, I feel restless, I'm going to kibosh it, right? That's the quote unquote homework you would do. That was kind of a side note, but let me know how this is landing. You can drop in the comments. You can also just send me a note after on Instagram or email. Honestly, happy to chat with you. I freaking love connecting with all of you. So it means a lot because I'm a human just like you. I mean, maybe I'm a little crazy. I live in a tiny home. Tiny home. I do circus training, but hey, I'm still just like you. And I love my kombucha. If you don't, I still love you. So this is my exact dialed-in process. This is how I've let go of my ADHD. It's not in my life anymore. And when things pop up, like these symptoms, I have these tools, right? The daily reinforcement to let it go. And those are my 4 steps to make it happen. So like I said, this is the work I now show clients on a fast track way to do, right? I'm trudging through the forest, but I show them the shortcut there. And even under calls, we do these meditations. We go connect with their inner child because that is so, so potent. It's creating new neural pathways in your brain. It's like breaking those old patterns, those old habits, and creating new ones that serve you. And if you're like, oh, I don't know what one-to-one coaching, or you're like, I just want to kind of get my feet wet into this, my newest groundbreaking program, Body, which is out on Monday, May 29th. We start, it's 4 weeks. And this is where we lay the foundation to all of these things. You're going to start to uncover your roots of symptoms, of whatever symptoms you kind of go after and target. You're also going to start to heal the roots. I'm going to give you the tools to do that. And most importantly, I didn't talk too much about this, but the whole focus of Body is connecting back to your body. Like I said, somatic memory stored in our body, right? Restlessness, anxiety, worry, this constant fear, the ruminating, like, being just paralyzed, like, what step do I take next, right? Not having the clarity, all that is stored in your body. And if you're like me, I did not know about my body until like 3 years ago. I did not know there were sensations in my body. I just would totally ignore everything. So if you're like, that was me. So it's so possible for you. I was complete end of the spectrum over here, but like not being connected to my body at all, like at all. But everything starts in our body. So you're going to learn how to connect to your body so you can start to feel those sensations with your somatic memory and be like, oh, I'm feeling this. Okay, cool. I can connect to it. I can release it. Maybe I can start to change how I want to feel. Maybe connect with my inner child. Like everything starts from your body. So the body course is the foundation to do all these other things. So those 4 steps I mentioned had some deep work, but body is the foundation. So you're like, cool, now I can hit up, I found the root. I can hit up the root. Step 2. I can do this on a regular basis. Step 3. I can show up as my higher self, my newest, better version of myself. Step 4. But body sets that strong foundation to be able to hit at all these steps. It's 4 weeks, it's a deep dive, it's a group program, which I love. I'm in a group program myself right now, a group mastermind, because you're learning from different people You're seeing yourself in different people. People are reflecting back to you, your own life. You learn more as you explain things to people within it. So it's going to be group calls just like this, Q&As. You're going to have a Slack thread to access me for personalized messages as well. So I won't talk too much about this on the show here, but I'm going to drop the link here in the comments. I do a payment plan as well, so feel free to take a look at it. And what else? Oh, if you have any questions at all, send me an email. DM me on Instagram. Like, happy to chat about it, because payment plan, and then pay in full. Because I want you to feel confident about coming to body, of like, yes, this is for me. So I want to make sure any questions, doubt, hesitation, all those things are answered. And most importantly, if you're terrified, if you're like, I don't know, I'm so scared, it's usually a good green light for it. I'm just going to put that out there. Every time I've been terrified to join something, that's been the biggest transformation. Okay, that about wraps up what I wanted to share today as I go through my notes. Yeah. Episode 3, I don't have yet what I'm going to be talking about on episode 3, but you'll want to be here, because if anything, well, it's going to be a vibe. It's always a vibe. You can also get your free coaching, get in the hot seat, ask your questions. So I'm going to stop the recording. So for those watching replay, you will not get the Q&A, but if you're live, I'm going to open the floor to questions here right away. I'll see you all next week. I know that you're doing so freaking good. I love you. And again, if I'm not relatable, that's okay. But different parts of my journey, I hope they are, because I'm showing what is possible for you. Because I've been where you are, whatever stage you're at, I have been there. Oh God, if you could see me like 3-4 years ago, which I'm sharing more and more on my Instagram about. So also, if you have any questions, send me a DM or an email. And I'm going to end the recording and open the floor for questions.